I don't mind Kanto or nostalgia pandering. Gen 6 just did an awful job by completely shattering the immersion that Kalos was a new region with how it dick rode Kanto. It's Kalos' fault, not Kanto's, that people are sick of it, since Kalos was so blunt with its references. I mean, like, you could say this, but at the same time, again, I don't really mind pandering. It kind of depends on the type of pandering. I don't even think Kalos dick rode Kanto too hard. I think it was mostly about, like, just, like, pandering a little bit to get people in, but the pandering that they did refreshed a lot of concepts from Gen 1 by introducing megas and shit like that. I don't think that was necessarily a bad thing. For a spicier take, I think Johto is boring region and Kanto is the only reason people like GSC and HGSS. I mean, yeah, that's definitely part of the reason. The fact that you could go to, like, the entire old region, like, as a kid was really awesome, but then you, like, when you got older, you realized how much Johto was actually compromised for that, and how the games could have been so much better if they hadn't put as much of, like, Kanto in the game. Dick riding Kanto, free Mega Lucario. Yeah, I think it's just that the Kalos games are a little bit bad. Even spicy, I think Gen 2 isn't all that great. Pokemon designs aren't bad, but Johto hardly sticks with me. One of the biggest problems with Johto is obviously the level curve, right? It's awful. The fact that you can, like, pretty much only use the Pokemon that you go catch early, because wild Pokemon levels stay so low for so much of the game, which means grinding is really inefficient. Adding new Pokemon to your team is really, really tedious. A lot of, like, very conceptual problems within Gen 1 for sure, or Gen 2 for sure, that I, like, dislike. The pixel art style is overrated. I disagree. I think the pixel art style, here's the problem. The pixel art style isn't, like, amazing, but the problem is what it's going up against. The 3D art style, I think, is really bad in Pokemon, especially for Gen 6. The way that all the colors got washed out in the Gen 6 designs, and the way it just looks bad. Pretty much all 3D sprites of Pokemon look bad and make them look, like, bloated. The colors are washed out. It's just not as expressive and not as cool as the 2D sprites. I don't necessarily need things to be pixel sprites, but, like, if they went up against actual good 3D designs, maybe people wouldn't circle jerk the 2D sprites as much, right? Sword and Shield seem to have good shading, yeah. Better than, like, all the other games so far. I was pretty happy with that. But then Sword and Shield had a lot of other problems. I hope that they fix it. Some of the rendering on the 3D environments looked really trash. Nintendo Switch now with PlayStation 1 graphics, yeah, I don't know. Pseudo legendaries should be obtainable early in the game, but rare. Nothing more badass than raising a powerhouse. I think I agree with this. The fact that pseudo legendaries are weak early and powerful later on would be a lot cooler if you could actually get them early, see that they're garbage, and then raise them on to be eventually amazing, right? I do think this concept could work if pulled off correctly. If they actually do make them weak, because, like, a Bagon or a Dratini are still going to be pretty good early on. Dragon types are pretty amazing. And then also a lot of them get, like, Dragon Rage early on. Gible early is, like, really, really good. Best game to Nuzlocke? For me, probably Black and White 2. And then Platinum's also really fun. Although there is, like, Magikarp early, and Magikarp I feel like pulls that off really well, except Magikarp evolves. I mean, like, Magikarp is, like, really polarizing. There's no real reward because you just don't use it and you switch grind it or use an experience share on it until it's, like, level 20, and then it's amazing, and you never use it before because it's unusable. There needs to be something in between there, right? Q-Tips thought of a run where Pokemon are only allowed to evolve if they prove themselves in especially difficult situations and earn it. It could be a better mechanic than friendship than just evolve. Yeah, that would be really cool, right? There's already a mechanic in place that you gain friendship if you take place in gym leader battle. So what if there was a Pokemon that could only evolve if it beats a gym with you? That would be really cool. The only problem with that is obviously that you can't evolve it if you catch it later on in the game if you've beaten all 8 gyms, right? But there could probably be a solution to that. They could just add, like, a stone or something to make it. That's a really interesting concept, actually. I like that a lot. X and Y anime was trash. I can't talk about this. Astro Ninja should have never been brought into the games. It should have remained an anime only thing. I always thought Astro Ninja was really stupid. I don't think this is a hot take, though. Yeah, Zubat to Crobat is a pretty good example. I agree with that. The only problem is how friendship evolution works is that basically once you get Golbat, you just, like, walk in place for, like, half an hour or, like, an hour, and then you just get Crobat. So it doesn't really work, right? The whole Gen 7 Z-move mechanism is dumb. I'd rather have Mega Evos all the way, and the idea of having no gyms was not the best idea in terms of gameplay. I hope gyms come back in Gen 8. So this is a two-part thing. I do think Megas are a lot more interesting than Z-Crystals. A lot more interesting. Z-Crystal might be more balanced for competitive, like some Megas were insanely OP, but at least, like, they were really interesting and gave us, like, new and interesting ways to look at Pokemon. Z-Crystal are, like, the exact opposite of that, where no matter which Pokemon uses fucking earth-shattering super Omega Terra Force or whatever the fuck the name of the ground type one is, like, at least it's like every animation looks the same. They all do the same thing. Like, it's super boring, and most of them are just like, okay, I'm gonna deal a lot of damage. Like, if at least the Z-Crystal move, the damage dealing ones, had, like, additional effects, right? What if the poison one, like, put like super poisoning on your opponent that like quadruples every turn or some stupid shit like that, right? What if I don't know, the fucking ground one, like put your opponent's speed to like, I don't fucking know, like something, right? Something that fits the theme of the typing, right? Could be really interesting, right? But they literally just like, okay, I'm gonna deal a ton of damage, and it's like, okay, like who cares, right? Yeah, having like signature Z moves, I think is really cool. I think that's a good thing. I wish it was more like that. Obviously, they probably couldn't like make a signature Z move for every Pokemon, although it would be cool if they did. Or make like, it wouldn't even have to be every Pokemon. Obviously, like Krabby and Corphish could like share the same one with like Mega Crab Hammer or something. If they made like a signature move for like different groups of Pokemon or like singular Pokemon, I think Z Crystals could have been a lot more interesting. But then obviously it would have been a lot harder to balance as well. Yeah, the Mew, Snorlax, and Mimikyu Z moves. Yeah. We need more shit like that for sure. Then the other part of this, I hope gyms make a comeback in Gen 8. I don't agree. I think we need to break up the storyline even more, but I feel like gyms are going to be back in Gen 8 and it's just going to be same old, right? But whatever. I mean, like Sun and Moon didn't even break up the formula. We still had an Elite Four and a champion and shit like that. If you've never changed the cries of the Gen 1 to 5 months heading into Gen 6, most of them are butchered. It's not completely unrecognizable that in Pikachu now its own name instead of having a proper cry. I mean, that's probably just like for a callback to the anime. I haven't looked too much into it. I do think that like the old Pokemon cries sound pretty cool. Remember the Gen 1 cries, a lot of Pokemon cries were just the same. No Yu metagame has been as fun as Yu or lower metagames as at least Gen 4. I mean, like, to be fair, this is just in nature of how it works, right? Like, usually Yu has like, doesn't have like the super OP shit and like more interesting Pokemon and just cooler Pokemon in general that aren't as like phased out by like the super strong stuff. I feel like, especially if you're like a little bit edgy and you don't like the best Pokemon, you're more likely to find your favorite Pokemon in the lower tier, if that makes sense. There's no way to write the rival than either being a jerk or eternally nice. That's literally not true. Gen 5 completely disagrees with you. Sharon and Bianca were neither eternally nice nor jerks. They were actual characters. I don't know why we've never seen this again in the series. It's really weird to me. Charizard is overrated and got too much attention. I think most people agree with this. I don't like Charizard that much. Although I will say Mega Charizard X is pretty badass. So I'm okay with it getting that much attention. The starter trio types are boring. I'm sure there's other type. Other three types that we use instead of fire, grass, water. I guess it's just like a classic thing, and it also just works better than the other types. We could do others, or maybe just have a different concept on how we do starter Pokemon. I think it's just such a mainstay in the series now. Originally, for the designs, it was important, right? Because one of the main core design philosophies of the first generation of Pokemon was that you couldn't possibly complete the game, complete the dex without trading with others, right? Because forcing you to connect with other people, right? Which was really, really important for the game's like growth and popularity. The other thing is choosing one of 3 starters endows you with like a certain personality, right? Kind of like the teams in Pokemon Go, right? Where like, oh yeah, I'm the guy who picked like Bulbasaur, and that choice sticks with you for the rest of your playthrough, right? And gives you a very like your own identity, because you normally you keep that Pokemon on your team, and your like playthrough fundamentally changes from your peers and everything. So that's also been really important. So I think the fact that we do have a choice between 3 starter Pokemon, probably there to stay. Do the types have to be the same? Probably not, but they're like the core types, and they make the most sense in explaining the way the types interact with each other. Like it's pretty easy to understand, like fire beats grass, and then grass beats, maybe grass beats water is a bit harder, but like water beats fire is like super obvious. So it's like a really easy way to explain to the player the type interactions, right? Well, whereas if you assume that maybe more experienced players are playing your game, maybe you don't need that tutorial kind of aspect in your game at all, and that would be a good reason to change it. Well, yeah, exactly. Charizard is probably because Charmander was like the most popular starter, right? It's what people have probably the most connection to. Dragon Fairy Steel, yeah, I don't know about that. Burn exclusive was a money grab. I think the player connectivity was just the selling point for it. I don't know if it's a money grab. How many people actually bought both versions and like 2 Game Boys to trade with yourself? I mean, that definitely happened. It definitely helped their sales, and it's part of the reason why they still do it. But I think a very big point is connectivity with other players and forcing that connectivity. I think it's part of the reason that the games got so popular, right? I don't know about you guys, but that was my experience back in school, right? Is I connecting with other people about it, and like playing Pokemon with other people really kept me in the series and kept me engaged with it and kept it interesting, right? I think it vastly like contributed to the popularity of the game. And like if all your friends are playing Pokemon, they're playing it with each other and they're bringing it to school, blah blah blah, that like incentivizes you to like beg your parents to buy the games more, right?